Welcome back guys, hope you are doing great, and today's in this video I'm going to show you how to create a tic-tac-toe game just by using Python and Kivy package. Well, this Python Kivy package which helps us to create an application by using which helps us to customize a lot, and it really helps us to create a materialistic UI. So just like the one which you can see over here. So this video is all about how to create this game and keep it more interactive and keep it more materialistic UI. Well, you can see here we're having this nice game over here, so I can start playing by just choosing an option. So if I choose, currently it will defaultly start from the player X, and I can choose wherever the next board. So if I click over here, it will show us as a 0. Now the active player is SX. So if the user is trying to click the same place again and again, it doesn't matter, it doesn't allow the user to click the same place again and again. So if I choose it over here, now it's 0 turn, so I can choose it over here. So if I click this, and it will automatically shows the X wins, right? And if I wish to click this new game, so that will reset everything and will create a new game, right? So this is just a basic example to play around with Python and with this Kivy package. So I hope you guys are so excited. So without wasting your time, let's jump into the video. Alright people, so before jump into the video, so please make sure that you already downloaded and installed the Python in your machine. So in this case, I'm using my Mac to work with the Python. So wherever the term I'm using the Python 3, so please follow that you're going to use the Python alone. If I'm using pip 3, you need to use the pip alone, right? So over here, so first we need to create a virtual environment. To create a virtual environment, so we are going to use the package called virtual env. So this is the package that we are going to use to create a virtual environment, right? So every time whenever you're working with a new project, so you should create a separate virtual environment for that particular product, so that you don't have to override or overload your default Python packages, right? So in this case, I'm going to use this virtual environment. So please go ahead and install this virtual environment in your machine, that package in your machine. So over here, so open up your terminal. So all I'm going to say is Python 3 -m venv virtual environment, and this is the environment folder that I'm going to create. So env, that's the environment folder that I'm going to create. So hit the enter. So this will take a few seconds or few minutes to create a virtual environment. In this case, in my case, it's already created. So what I'm going to do is I need to activate this virtual environment. So once you created this virtual environment, so you need to activate it. So to activate it, all I have to say is source /bin I'm sorry, it needs to be, I need to go inside the env folder, then source./bin activate. So if you are using a Windows, so you don't have to use the command called source. All you have to say /etc/ the bin etc activate, I think so. So source./etc scripts activate. So that's the name, I think so, that's the package name. So inside that you can find this activate dot command. So you can see inside this bin folder, inside this I can see I have this activate command. So just like the very same way, you can see, go inside the env folder, go to inside the scripts or bin folder, there you can able to find out this activate. So just hit the enter. So now you can make sure that your environment is activated. So if your folder name is displayed before the command line, then it is activated. So all you have to deactivate it, all you have to say deactivate. That's it. No changes in both Mac and Windows, just you have to say deactivate. So that will deactivate the virtual environment. So now to start with this, so we need to install the package, the main package that we are going to work on this video, which is pip3 install Kivy. So all you have to say pip install Kivy. So that will download and install the Kivy package inside your project virtual environment. So let me show you. So all you have to say pip3 list. So that will gives you the list of packages which is downloaded and installed in your current virtual environment. So these are the packages which is downloaded along with the Kivy. Okay, so let me close this, and I'm going to create, so pip3 freeze into the requirements.txt. So these are the packages that I need to maintain every time when I'm trying to install it in a new machine. So these are the exact same machine that I need to install it, right? So that's the reason we are creating as a package requirements list separately. So whenever you want to do this project in some other machine, just go ahead and install the packages directly from this requirements.txt. All right, so now let's create a new app folder over here. So I'm going to say call app.py. So this is the file that we are going to work now. So first what I need to do is I need to import a very specific class. So from Kivy dot app, import the app class. So this is the class which it needs to inherit it with our own classes, with our own custom class which we are going to create. So that will help us to access some default functions with the Kivy app, right? So class Tic-Tac-Toe. This is the class I'm going to create, and I'm going to inherit this app base class of our Kivy. So, and in the Kivy app, we have a default method which whenever an app it's started, there is a method which is automatically triggered, which is nothing but this build folder div.fill. So this is the file. This is the function which is automatically called every single time whenever you start your app, right? So in this case, the suggestions, it's automatically called this. It's overriding the super method, so I don't need any of the written statement right now. So all over here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a simple label and I'm going to display it right now. So self dot, let's say result label or something, result label equals to label. Okay, so we need to bring the label inside, right? So what I'm going to do is from Kivy dot uix dot label, from where import from that specific package, I'm going to import the label. Okay, so label, then the text equals to text, text equals to Tic-Tac-Toe, then the font underscore size equals to 32. So these are the things. So now what I need to do is I need to create a main layout, and inside that main layout I need to wrap this and I need to add this widget to our app, right? So to do that, what I need to do is inside the build folder itself, this is the place where we are going to create the main layout. So this is the place where we are creating our main layout. So main underscore layout. So basically Kivy provides you lots and lots of layouts. So to go through about this, all you have to do is to go to your browser and search for Kivy MD, and there you can find their official documentation. If you open it, that will takes you to this page, right? So here you can see we have lots and lots of layouts over here. So grid layout, float layout, and of course we do have the box layout also. See the box layout. So we can take your time and go through this complete documentation, which really helps you to understand the Kivy much better. So in this case, we are going to use this box layout. So it's not showing the suggestion, so I'm going to import all the necessary packages that we are going to use it inside this project. So these are the necessary packages that we needed. I just copied and pasted, so please import it one by one. Every time when I'm using something, you just go ahead and by the top and import it, or just pause the video and type all these necessary packages first. All right, so box layout. So inside this box layout, what we are going to do is let's say we need to fix the orientation of this box. So what kind of orientation that it's going to take. So I'm just going to say the orientation, it's going to be vertical. All right, so vertical. So let's save these changes. Then I need to add the widget which we created. So main layout dot add widget. So I'm going to say self dot result label. This is the label which we created, and that we need to add it into our main layout. And finally at the end, we need to return this main layout, the layout which we created. That's the stuff that we are trying to return. All right, so we need to create an object for this. and then we need to run this TikTok app, right? So underscore underscore name. So whenever the main module, whenever the name of this, the script name, this file name, it's equals to underscore underscore main underscore, then I'm going to create tick. I'm going to create an object for this, and I'm going to call the run method of that app. So this run method will launch your app in a standalone mode, right? So let's run it. All I have to say is Python 3 app.py. Hit the enter. So there is no mistakes, and in the right side you can see we have our Tic-Tac-Toe label which is created successfully, right? So in this case I'm just going to close it, which means our app is currently working smoothly. So all we have to do is to go ahead and create the necessary steps. So since we already have our label over here, next what I need to do is I need to bring the boards, and I need to bring the buttons for the boards, right? So basically how many possibilities we have? 9 boards over there in the TikTok. So in each of the 9 boards we need to create a separate 9 list, and each list carries a string like x0 x0 xo or something like that, right? So that's the reason first we need to create the board. So self dot board board equals to an array with an empty string, and I need to repeat this same stuff for 9 times. So I need to create a 9 times an empty string inside this list, right? So that's the reason we are creating it like that, because every time when the user clicks it, we need to add one by one inside that list, like x0 x0 x0. Once the user reaches all the 9 possibilities, if any user wins, then he is the winner. If none of them wins, then he's the both of the user are ran into a tie, right? Something like that, right? So we need to fix the active player. So active underscore player equals to x. Initially we are fixing the active player as the x, right? Then we need to create a button. So self dot buttons equal to an empty list. Okay, so for this buttons I'm going to create a grid layout, so that will help us to create an layout more easier. So grid layout is going to be, and the number of columns I'm going to create is equals to 3. Okay, so I'm going to use a for loop for I in range of 9. Since we have 9 possibilities, so we need to create a 9 buttons. So button equals to button. So we created an instance. Now what I need to do is I need to bind the event Kivy event with this button. So bind button dot bind bind, open it. So basically we're gonna create a lambda function over here. So on button release, so there is an event called on button release, on underscore release, release equals to lambda. So I'm going to create a lambda function for this. So button equals to button colon self dot on underscore button underscore click. So don't worry about this. I'm going to explain you this particular line of code, what exactly it's been happening over here. So basically the line button dot bind, this particular line, whatever we written over here, so it's setting up an event binding in the Kivy. It's binding on release event of the button to the lambda function which we created over here, right? So which will call the self dot this on button click. Whenever the method, the button it's been clicked, it will calls that method. So basically this method with the button, it's passed that but this entire method as its argument to that event. So we are passing this method as an argument to this event through this lambda function, and it's binded to this button object which we created. Okay, so this method which we haven't created yet, so we need to create it. All right, so let me break it down step by step, so don't worry about that. So this button dot bind and the on release equals to, this is the part where we are attaching an event handler to the button widget which we created. In this case, it's binding on a release event which occurs whenever the button is released after being clicked, and then the lambda button equals to button. This is the place the lambda function is being defined. This lambda function takes no argument explicitly, but it captures the value of the button variable from the outer scope, which is coming from its outer scope, right? It efficiently creates a closure allowing that lambda to access the button variable. Okay, then the self dot on button click button, this particular line, right? So here is a lambda function. It's what to say, inside the lambda function, it is called whenever the button is being released. So this is the method that will be executed whenever that on release events occurs. It passed to the button as its argument, as I said, right? So these are the things. This is the purpose of this entire line. So we just wrapped a three different like what is it, the most important feature, like whenever the button is being clicked, we need to call a method, and that method needs to be executed according to that event. So these kinds of steps are wrapped in a single line over here, right? So you need to understand it very carefully. All right, so now what we need to do is, so we need to append this to this button arrays, like the same way we have 9 different buttons, right? So we need to append button by one into that buttons array. So self dot buttons dot append this button which we created. So then we need to add this widget to that layout. So layout dot add widget to the, we are adding that button to that widget. Now we added that button to that widget. Now we need to add this and this main layout, this layout to our main layout, right? So let's go ahead and add that stuff. What we have to do is just like the same way, main layout dot add widget, add that layout. So save these changes and let's make sure whether it is working or not, and it should work. But if you're trying to click something, it will throw an error because we haven't created this method over here. So the layout is working, but this method is not there, so that's the reason it's throwing an error. So what I'm going to do is, right after this return, I'm going to create define on button click. I'm going to say self, and I'm going to get the parameter, because it's, since this we are passing the button object, what button we are clicked, we need to get the which button is being clicked, right? So we are passing that button as an argument over here. So I need to get that button information, so I'm going to keep it as a button itself, and I'm going to pass it. So far I'm not going to do anything inside this function, so I'm just going to pass it. Let me rerun it. All right, so let me bring it over here. Okay, so now if I click this, we are not getting any error, but we have this complete button over here, right, which is working 9 different buttons, and the grid layout is working perfectly as it's supposed to be, right? So that's looking cool. So then now what we have to do is, all we have to do is to I need to create one more reset button over here. So let's go ahead and create that reset button. So right after this, I'm going to say self dot reset underscore button equals to button, open it, and I'm going to say text equals to next game, and then size underscore hint, hint, size underscore hint equals to, so we are not fixing any, none, then size equals to the button size, it's going to be 200 width and 50 pixels height. Then self dot reset button dot bind, so we need to bind an event, right? So whenever we are clicking something, we need to call a method. So bind on underscore release equals to self dot reset underscore game. Of course, we need to create this method, so copy it, and right after here define reset underscore game self, right? Since we are not we are passing, we have to pass the button. I think we don't need to pass the button. If you need, we can capture the button instance over here. All right, so, and I'm just going to say pass. All right, so, and since we created the reset button, now what I need to do is, so for the reset button, this reset button should be always anchored at the bottom of the app, right? So right after here, I'm going to create an anchor layout. So anchor underscore layout to make sure this button is always anchored to the bottom of the screen. So anchor layout and anchor underscore x, it's going to be center, and anchor underscore y. Basically in the x and y axis we are just anchoring what exact position that we are. It's kind of like absolute position, right? So then anchor underscore layout dot add widget to our self dot reset button. So we need to reset game. This is the reset game, or sorry, not reset game. This is going to be the reset button, the button which we created. It need to be added, and then we're going to add that anchor layout to our main layout. Anchor layout. Save these changes, and I need to close this. I need to rerun it. Here we go. So now you can able to see this next game over here, and it's working perfectly fine. So now every time whenever I'm clicking this, I need to bring this X, Y, Z, something like that, and we need to keep track who's the winner, right? So to do that, that's what we are going to do now. Since we already created on button click event, so this is the place where we are calling that on button click. So inside this, what I need to do is, wait a minute, let me delete this pass. So inside this, I'm going to create an index equals to self dot buttons dot index of button. So through this way, we can able to figure out what index, so in which index, so we can figure it out, what to say, totally we have 9 different buttons, right? So we need to figure out which button is being clicked by the user. So using the position, we are going to get that, and we are going to use that index, right, to do some stuff with that button. So over here, next what I need to do is, so if self dot board of index is equals to, so in that specific index we are going to insert that X or O, whatever it is. So first what I need to do is, I need to make sure that board is equals to empty. If it is equals to empty, then only we need to allow that particular X or O value needs to be inserted in that array value, right? So colon, if it is equal to empty, then self dot board of index equals to self dot active player, right? So who's the active player right now? X is the active player. So whenever the user clicks it, the active player will be added. If it is X or O, if he is an active player, then that value will be added into that list. Then we need to change that button text also. So button dot text equals to self dot active player. Okay, so now save the changes, and if I run it one more time, you can see if I click this, you can see it's changed to X. If I click this again, it's keeping the X only, it's not bringing the O, because every time when the user clicks it, if the X is the active player, then the X will be added. By the time next time when the user is clicking, he needs to switch back automatically to the second player, which is O, right? To do that, what we need to do is, this is the place where we added the button text. Then after this particular part, we need to check who's the winner, right? Every time whenever the user gives an input, there is a possibility of a winning chance also, right? So we need to make sure. So if self dot I'm going to create a new method called check underscore winner. Okay, and basically that is going to return a boolean value. If the user wins, we're going to return true or false. Only two possibilities, win or lose. So that's the thing. All right, so over here self dot result label dot txt equals to formatted string. Let's open it. Self dot active player wins. Whoever the active player will display the messages wins. Okay, so then the second condition is going to be else if elif if it is an empty string and not in self dot board. That means the entire board, the 9 in a list, it's all fully occupied, but no one wins. That means it's a tie, right? So I'm just going to copy this and I'm gonna say it's a tie. It's a tie. All right, and then at the end it's going to be else. Else I'm just going to copy this and over here. So this is the place where we are trying to figure it out who's the active player. So we need to switch the active player. So if the X is the active player, then we need to switch it to O. If the O is the active player, then we need to switch it to X. So we need to switch it back and forth, right? So self dot active player, if the self dot active player is equals to O, okay, O, I'm gonna write in one more if condition like a ternary operator over here. Active player is equals to X else X. So let me explain this line because this function is not there. That's the reason it's giving an error. So I'm just going to copy this and I'm going to create that method. Define pass and use the self parameter. I think the reason is because the indentation. Not sure why this error is happening. Yep, a small indentation mistake. That's literally painful. Okay, so now let me explain this particular line, what exactly that we are doing over here. So basically the line, the self.active player O, if the self.active player is equal to X else X. So what exactly we are doing is, so this is a Python conditional expression, or also we can say as a ternary operator used to toggle the active players between X and O, right? So basically the self.active player, this is the variable that keeps the track of the current active player in your game. So let's say the self.active player is equals to X. That means this is the part where the current active player is X. Okay, so then else X. So this is the part. So this is the part, right? This is the part. It's making sure that the current active player is as X. So this else X on the right hand, if the condition in the if statement is true, then the current player is X, then the value of the right of the if statement in this case is O. In this case, it's O, is assigned to the self.active player. The changes of the active player to O, right? So let me explain one more time. This is the part else X. If the condition in the if statement is true, if this condition in the if statement is true, that means the current active player is X. Then what happens? Then the value on the right of the if statement, which is over here, and the value on the right of the if statement in this case is O, is assigned to the self.active player. That's what happening over here. If this condition is true, then this value will get assigned, right? then the active player will change to 0. Sorry, that means O. So think about the another possibility. If the active player is O, if this active player is O, so if the condition in the if statement, it will become false because the active player is not X, the active player is already O. Okay, so then the value in the right side of this condition, which is the else part, will automatically change the active player to the else, automatically change the active player to X. So first time we already fixed the active player as X, so this condition will be executed. This condition is true, so this value gets assigned. Then the second time the same condition will get checked, but this time X is not an active player, so this part will be executed. All right, cool. So this is the ternary operator. This is how the Python logical condition will work over here. So this is the place where we are checking the changing the active users. And now let's come into the winner possible situations over here. So let's check out the winner conditions, right? So we need to figure it out. That is a logical winner condition over here, which is going to be a 3x3 into 3x3 matrix. So all we have to do, so I'm just going to copy that winning possible conditions over here. These are the winning possible conditions: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 0, 3, 6, 1, 4, 7. So please take your time and copy this and paste it in the Google and try to understand the entire winning logic of this complete game so that you can able to understand why exactly we are using this. So for condition, I'm going to create a condition for condition in win conditions. In the win condition, so we are going to get the 1 by 1, and if the self dot board of condition 0, if it is equals to self dot board of condition 1 or self dot board of condition 2, if it is not equals to an empty string. If this says so, then we need to return true, or else after this I'm just going to return the false. This is it. So save changes. All right, so yep, I hope everything is perfect. So let's rerun it. There is no mistake so far. So x 0 x 0 x. So my bad. So what I need to do is we just need to change the function name because I created this entire logic inside the reset game. So let's change this over here. My bad, I didn't check that. Mistake happens, so please be very careful whenever you're working with this. So copy this and use this. All right, just I written the entire code in a wrong function, that's the reason. So let me bring it over here. So x, that is a missing Oops. This is not necessary. That's a problem. So that's not necessary, but for the reset game we need that button. Yes. All right, so here now if I click this, you can see x 0 x 0 and x, and still the text is not changing. Not sure what's the mistake. I think I do have an indentation error completely from here itself. Yep, I do have an indentation error completely from the here itself. See, you can see the entire line is messed up. Oh god. So please be careful or use the formatter like auto FP8, something like that. In this case, I don't have those things. That's why it's showing the issues. I think this should resolve everything. I think so. X 0, X 0, X 0. So 0 is the winner, right? So we need to display the text according to that who is the winner. So which we already returned over here, but this part is not working. So if the guy is true, then it will comes over here. If it is false, then it will switch the player. So basically this is what it's doing. This is fine. No mistakes over here. Over here, yes, that's perfectly fine. If self.board condition 0 is equals to self.board dot condition 1 self.board condition 2 return true, return false. So everything is fine over here. Then what will, okay guys, so it's working now. So it took me a very long time to figure out what the exact mistake I made. The same indentation problem, that's the problem it's causing. So I just removed the complete stuff and I re-indented everything one by one. Now it's working. You can see x0 x0 x wins, right? So it's working. The code, I didn't change anything, just adjusted the indented. It's almost took me 10 to 15 minutes to figure out the mistake, because I was checking the entire logic, because it's not showing the error in the indentations also. So I was checking in the logic, so there is no mistakes in the logic, everything is working fine. All right, so now the x wins, it's displaying perfectly. Now all we have to do is to reset the entire stuff. That's what we need to do. So to reset the entire game, so all we have to do is to go here, remove the pass, and over here self dot board, I'm just going to keep the entire list as an empty, and I'm going to multiply it again with 9. Okay, come on, 9. All right, so self dot active player is equals to x. Then self dot result label dot text equals to the same tic-tac-toe. Then for button in buttons, for button in self dot buttons, we are going to say button dot text equals to empty string. Save the changes. Now let's rerun it. Let's bring it over here. x0 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 x wins. And now if I click reset, and you can see entire stuff is resetted. Now simply, if you don't allow the user to win, we can simply block the user, just like here. So now we can see it's a draw, right? And the game, it's working so perfectly. So this is how we can able to build this Tic-Tac-Toe game just by using this Kivy app completely from the ground. So I hope you guys are so excited. So if you love this video, or if you're having any questions in your mind, please drop the questions in the description or in the comment section. Please drop your questions in the comment section. I will see you in the upcoming videos with more interesting concepts.